Hi, Vishal.
Great. Hi, Suchi. How are you?
Good, how are you?
All okay. Great to have you on. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
So yeah, we can get started. I think see we already have quite a few people.
Yeah.
So I just got a message saying to shut off the fan if possible. So just do that.
Oh, wait,
Make
should
sure
I
there's no
shut mine
disturbance.
too?
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
Cool. So I think we can get started. So for those of you who don't know Suchita, she's a founder of a startup called Basics, and I'll let her talk a little more about that. But she's also done her undergraduate studies at the University of Southern California, and she's currently doing her postgraduate in a diploma in nutrition and health education. So yeah, so do you want to talk a bit more about what you do, a bit about your startup, and how you sort of got into this?
Sure. So I got into the field of nutrition literally ever since I was a child because my mother has been like a very prominent figure in this industry. So they have a company, my parents have a company called Health Total that's been around for around 30 years now. And we're primarily into nutrition, Ayurveda, treating lifestyle disorders. So I've grown up in this environment where food is literally treated as medicine. Eventually, I wanted to pursue business because I felt like if I can help more people kind of reach their health goals, um, that would be a better strategy for me. And then, so that's why I went to the US. I studied my business administration there. And then thereafter, I kind of came back. I decided to come back to India and pursue nutrition. So currently, I'm founding my own company. It's called The Basics, wherein we want to, the main ideology is to treat ingredients as king. So the philosophy is that a few key ingredients go a long way in treating your health goals, in understanding your health goals. So right now, that's what's keeping me busy during this whole quarantine period.
Nice. So actually, that was going to be my next question, but given the lockdown, the obvious, the quarantine, what exactly, how exactly are you managing to stay healthy in this time? Just as a quick introduction to the talk as well. So we're just going to talk a bit about nutrition, on healthy eating, staying fit during the lockdown. Of course, I know that's on everyone's minds, and of course PCOD as well. So just to
Mhm.
get started, now that you mentioned the quarantine and lockdown, how exactly are you staying fit? What are some tips you have for our viewers? What can they do to make sure that they don't really fall into bad habits during this time?
Right. So I think the most important thing to consider right now is that how our lifestyles have changed with this whole quarantine period, right? Like earlier, what would one do when they would usually wake up? They would wake up, eat breakfast, go to work, come back home, go to the gym, come back, watch TV. So there was a lot of movement here and there. Today, our schedule is we wake up late, we sleep late, we switch on Netflix, and basically that's it. If I have to sum it up, maybe some of us will do like a cool at-home workout and post it on Instagram. But for the majority of us, we're just sitting in front of the television and consuming content, and then we're just binging on everything. We're binging on food, we're binging on Netflix, we're binging on Prime. So it's just a lot of binging, basically. So the idea is to basically understand that okay, our lives have changed. Now, how do we deal with this change, right? So the first and most important thing I think is to be mindful, right? So what tends to happen is that when you're sitting in front of a television, you're just so engrossed in that, you're so engrossed in your show, and you're just eating anything that comes in your way. You're eating your popcorn, you're eating your Nutella. So the first and most basic tip that I can give is to be mindful of the fact that um, okay, this is my body. I have to treat it like a temple. I have to respect it and not put anything and everything that comes in my way, right? The second thing I would say is eating three-fourths of capacity. So what we tend to do is that we want to eat till 125% of our capacity, till we're bloated, till we're full, till we cannot move. Because we think that this is just what the new norm is, but it's really not. The idea is to eat three-fourths of capacity so that you give your body the time to digest, you give your body the time to rest, you give your cells time to recover. So eat three-fourths of capacity. The third thing that I want to say is um, try healthy swaps. So I know we're so used to having a popcorn and your Nutella and your ice cream, but try foods that are healthier with the same texture. So for example, if you're very used to popcorn, you could try going in for makhana, you know, because it has that same crunch and it's, you know, it feels the same. If you are used to having ice cream, I would say swap in for Greek yogurt, because that's again got the same texture and it's healthier. So maybe have Greek yogurt with bananas or Greek yogurt with apples. If you're a fan of chocolates and you have lots of sugar cravings, which most of us do, I'd say go for a dark chocolate with almonds or some sort of fruit in it, because dark cocoa is really healthy. It's actually even better than green tea. Um, and another swap could be, say you want cookies, so then you could go in for like something healthier, like a fruit bowl, to curb the sugar cravings. Basically the whole idea is to switch to something that's a healthier option. So yeah, I think being mindful, right, eating 3/4 of capacity, healthy swaps, and also incorporating a little bit of exercise. You know, I'm not saying go
Yeah.
crazy with the exercise. I'm not saying um, if you're a beginner to gymming, or you're just like, you don't know how to lift, or you don't know anything that's really hectic, just do a simple yoga. There are so many YouTube videos that can really help you. So just try, or do a brisk walk in your house. Go to your building terrace. So try and incorporate some sort of exercise.
Great. Sorry, we've been getting a lot of questions already.
Oh, wow.
Just because there are a few relevant ones here, I'm just gonna ask them. So we have one. Yeah, is fasting a solution to weight loss?
So the idea is to, what is a fast? Okay, let's understand what exactly is a fast, right? So we've been fasting since a really long time, like back in the day when, you know, even religious festivals, you have a lot of fast. Like right now, Ramzan is going on, so people fast for that. So it's a sort of detoxification. It's a sort of cleanse that we need to do every now and then, because the thing is that today in this 21st century, we are so overloaded with toxicity, with pollutants, that we need to cleanse our system. So yes, fasting is a very good way of getting rid of all the pollutants and all the chemical buildup inside your body. Having said that, it's important to know what kind of fast you also want to do. So there are different ways of fasting. There's no standard rule as to this is how you need to fast. Some people go on fruit fasts, so they'll only consume fruits all day, which is also a fast. Some people have practically nothing in the day. That I wouldn't suggest, but because you obviously need some nourishment, right? The idea is never to starve yourself. Even if you look at intermittent fasting, you know, so that's another type of diet that I'll talk about later. But the idea is to keep your insulin levels low. So there's this whole new mindset where people are constantly being asked to eat very frequently. You know, have 5 meals a day, have 6 meals a day. No, you don't need to have five, especially in this quarantine period, because your lifestyle is sedentary. You're not moving. You're only consuming more and more food, and you're not burning those calories, right? So in terms of fasting right now, I think it's a very good option for those who want to lose weight. The idea is that the insulin level is maintained. Every time we eat, our insulin spikes up. The more the insulin spikes up, weight gain happens. So the idea is to keep the insulin balanced. So fasting definitely helps with that.
Cool. So just actually, since someone asked it and you mentioned it as well, maybe we can talk a bit about different types of diets, what you feel about intermittent fasting. So I know, nowadays there are multiple diets. I hear people on keto, on intermittent fasting, low carb, high carb, low protein, high protein, every single variation. Maybe you could just shed some light on this, what you think, sort of works best. Is there different things that work for different people?
Yeah, definitely. So, okay, this is what I feel. Whenever you adapt to any sort of lifestyle change, the change should be suitable for your taste buds, your activity, what your preferences are, and not the other way around. Because the harder the diet, the faster you're going to give up. It's as simple as that, right? So choose a diet that you find is best suited for your needs, your body. That's rule number one. So second thing is, now when we talk, like you mentioned the different diets, right? So there's keto, there's low carb, high protein, there's intermittent fasting. So I'm going to start with keto, right? So personally, also another thing is, any diet that you start, once you get off it and you go back to your normal routine, I assure you, you will start gaining that weight. Right? So the idea is to do something that is a lifestyle change. That is to make sure that you, whatever you do, this is what you're going to follow for pretty much the rest of your life. So make sure it's adapted well to your taste buds and your needs. So the thing with keto is that it's about consuming 70% fat in the diet, right? Where your body undergoes ketosis and you burn the fat. Personally, I would never be able to do this because I can't imagine myself drinking fat. Okay, that's literally, or like having a lot of heavy fatty foods, and on top of that, not having any carbohydrates. It's not the thing with us is that we tend to be so extreme. It's either cut carbs completely or we love carbs. There has to be a balance, you know. So that's why I say try to take in more complex carbs. But coming back to keto, so it's a high fat diet, and on top of that, you're not allowed any glucose. There's barely any amount of glucose and very minimal level of protein. People, I mean, this is what I've heard from, you know, a lot of my friends who've been on this keto diet, that they feel really moody, they feel depressed, they start smelling also because you're just consuming fats, you get body odor, and plus it's not sustainable. You can't do this for your entire life because you can't just survive on drinking fat, right? So why go through yourself, why put yourself through this process, this hard process of losing weight? There are far easier options to lose weight, so you might as well try something like that. Like you said, intermittent fasting, I think, is a very good option. So the idea is, you don't have to do the fast every day. You can do it maybe twice, 2 non-consecutive days of the week. So I can do it on a Monday and I can do it on a Thursday. The idea is to keep an 8-hour gap, right? So you have your meal at 12 p.m. and then you have your next meal at around 8 p.m. So you keep that 8-hour gap, and then after dinner, you don't have anything. So that again takes me back to the whole insulin going up and down, because you're controlling the level of insulin spikes in your body, but naturally you will end up losing weight. So
very interesting. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
My personal, so like I said, it's all about degree of difficulty, right? The easier the diet, the more likely you are to kind of take on to it, and the longer you will be on it and able to maintain your weight. So I think following a low carb, high protein diet is perfect, because anyways today half the world is gluten intolerant. So it's best that we kind of switch to more complex carbs, and anyways we need more protein in our diet. So that's a better idea.
No, very interesting. I completely agree with what you're saying. You know, just in terms of it being sustainable, you see a lot of people starting a diet 2 weeks into it, 1 month into it, 2 months into it, you just can't take it anymore, and you sort of put all that weight back on. So I think that's really important to keep in mind as well. We have a few more questions. So we have a question from Arjun. Do you believe in Ayurvedic principles with diet?
Definitely. So like I said, that my organization, Health Total, we follow an integrative approach, right? So we have 4 pillars. One is Ayurveda, second is nutrition, third is homeopathy, and fourth is gene testing, wherein we see what genes, type of genomes you're born with, and accordingly we can prescribe a diet based on that, but that's not compulsory. But coming back to the first 3 pillars, I think Ayurveda is a 7,000-year-old science, you know, so we don't need to go to any new age science facts that are out there. We can go back to our roots. It's only when, you know, the West says that, oh, have a turmeric latte, do we start believing in the goodness of haldi. But we've been preaching that for the longest time ever. So the idea is that Ayurveda is totally bang on. We have, in fact, in our centers, we prescribe a lot of the Ayurvedic herbs like Triphala, Guruchi, Tulsi, ashwagandha. So Ayurveda is excellent for a detox, and it's a natural way. You know, if there's an option between allopathy and Ayurveda, why would anyone? I mean, that's my personal opinion. Why go that artificial route? Because allopathy, at the end of the day, is only a band-aid. It's not treating the problem from the root. Ayurveda is treating the problem from the root, and it's a more holistic way of dealing with your body.
So I think there's a little bit of disturbance from my pet in the background. I'm just going to shut the door. But yeah, I know there are a lot of questions in the comments from a lot of people asking about PCOS. So let's talk about that. I know that's something you sort of done a lot of research in.
Yes.
You know, you can have a lot of, you know, you'd be able to add a lot of value to people's lives. So maybe you can just start off by telling us a little more about PCOS, you know, the current situation in India, why does it happen? And then maybe we can move on to diet, lifestyle changes, what exactly you recommend, what you do.
Okay. So let's understand currently what's the situation in India specifically, right? Because I don't want to talk about other countries because their geography, climate, everything is very different. So in India, as per today, every 1 in 5 women have PCOS. That's 20% of the female population, female reproductive population, which is, if you look at the numbers, the absolute figures, that's a lot of women, right? So that is one big hard hitting fact. The second thing we need to understand is that why is it rising in India? Why is it rising globally? Yes. But why is it rising in India specifically? There are reasons for both. So there are multiple factors that lead to PCOS. You know, okay. Firstly, I am someone who has PCOS, so I come from direct experience of having to deal with it. A big misconception about PCOS is that you have to be obese to have PCOS. That is not the case. You can be lean and also have PCOS. So, coming back to what are the factors involved in PCOS? One being, and I hate this, it's genetics. So whenever anyone tells me, okay, yeah, genetics, you're just like, okay, but like, I can't blame my genes, right? Give me a solution. So out of the way, I don't like even considering that, because there's something also called as epigenetics, which is when you learn to switch on and switch off genes through diet and through therapy, right? Through meditation, through different types of therapy, you can sort of switch off your genes. So one is genetics, right? The other thing is your lifestyle. So when you talk about the food that you consume, so in India specifically, we imagine your Indian plate, okay? So you consume your rice or your roti in the center of the plate, right? So that's about 60% of that covers your plate. The rest is maybe your vegetables. Few of us that do consume vegetables, maybe about 10%. And the remaining is either your chicken or your dal, which is around 20%. So if we see, majority of what we're eating is coming from the carbs. It's either the rice or the roti. Even generally, Indians love carbs. So whether it's dosas or pav bhaji or dhoklas, anything, we love carbs. And I'll tell you the relevance of this carb eating habit. Basically, India is second to China even when it comes to diabetes, right? Diabetes, PCOS is a precursor to diabetes. So PCOS is the condition that we only see in women, of course, but also, but diabetes is something that happens because of insulin resistance, which is also a result of this excessive carb eating habit that we have as Indians. So one thing is our meal structure. If you look at Western countries or healthier nations like, say, Japan, or maybe other nations also, you'll always find the protein component as the bulk of the plate. So you'll have either the chicken or the other meat or anything else, the protein, which forms around 60% of the plate. You'll have maybe mashed potatoes or veggies that form the latter half. So they're more focused on having the protein, which is why they are not as insulin resistant as we are. That is one thing. Second thing is our lifestyle. So we Indians tend to have a very sedentary lifestyle. So even as we're growing up as children, there's a lot more focus for both boys and girls on academics to perform well in school. The emphasis on taking up a sport, extracurriculars, playing baseball, cricket, or whatever it is that we see Western countries playing, we don't have that as much. So what happens is, and especially as girls, from a very young age, we stop moving, we stop going out, we stop running, we stop, and there's also this certain stigma. Majority of Indian women, and I mean like the big chunk, they feel shy to go to a gym. And I've literally seen this happen because they don't want to wear sneakers. It's a mindset. So there's basically a lack of movement that we have. So it's poor diet and it's a sedentary lifestyle. So both these combinations together result in PCOS. So these are one of the causes of PCOS, which definitely can be changed using diet and lifestyle.
No, very interesting. I think just, following on from that, we have a question here asking, just if you have any specific diet for PCOD, what to eat, any substitutes, things that should be avoided, if there's anything specific you recommend.
Okay. So again, no one size fits all kind of answer for this, because like I said, okay, so my personal experience, right? I have PCOS. Whenever I went to, or whenever I researched online, the first thing they would tell me is lose weight. And I'm like, if I lose more weight, I will disappear. So please do not give me that advice, because that's the most basic advice that they tell you for PCOS, which is 100% true, but provided you fall under that category of 80% PCOS, which is more on the obese side of PCOS. So I would say, and these are just personal tips that I've kind of, that have worked for me, okay? One is avoiding dairy. So most of us, around 70% of us, have become lactose intolerant. That has, it's again to do with our lifestyle and our habits and everything. So most of us are lactose intolerant. So by avoiding dairy personally, I felt like my acne started reducing. So this is called the elimination diet. You have to listen to your body. The most important thing to do is that no one else is in your body experiencing this kind of symptoms that you are experiencing. So you have to see what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So I started eliminating dairy, and that worked really well for me. Then I moved on to gluten. I figured that whenever I would eat a lot of bread or paws or other pizzas, I used to feel extremely lethargic. And it's not like everyone does feel lethargic, but more than normal for what an average 24-year-old would feel. And that I realized is directly linked to your insulin resistance, right? So I cut that off. So these are two things that I would in my post. And then I switched to complex carbs. So instead of having wheat rotis, I started having jawar rotis or bran rotis, right? Instead of having potato chips, I went to sweet potato chips. So just complex carbs, and you'll find multiple options online of what exactly is a complex carb. So these are two things that I felt really worked for me. One is avoid dairy, avoid gluten, and basically listening to your body. If it works for you, if you feel good about it, if your body feels good about it, you will know first. No one else will know before you. Your doctor may tell you something, but it's important that you are in tune with yourself and you understand what's right and what's not right. The other thing that really helped was, honestly, I know it seems like a whatever kind of tip, but it's meditation and journaling, right? So the thing with PCOS is that a lot of women who are going through PCOS are experiencing a lot of mayhem within themselves. A lot of women can't conceive. PCOS is responsible for high infertility rates amongst women. So they don't feel feminine enough. There's a lot of problems that people go through when they have PCOS. So I think the most important thing to do is to calm your mind, because stress is also directly related to PCOS. There are a lot of herbs that you can have to calm your stress. Like ashwagandha is a very good Ayurvedic herb that people have for PCOS. And the last thing is strength training. So what happens is that when you build muscle, you reduce the level of insulin resistance in your body. because more than 75% of girls who have PCOS have insulin resistance. So it's important to take up some form of strength training so that you deal with that.
Very interesting. And I hope that answers most of the questions that people had. If there are any other questions, please feel free to continue leaving them in the comments. Just another point I wanted to cover. You mentioned right now that you gave up dairy, but
Right.
I know a lot of people have this question, and there's a lot of confusion. Is milk good for you? Is dairy good for you? Should I be vegan? What is it all about? Do you have any advice on this? Do you think everyone should give up milk? Should everyone be vegan? What exactly do you recommend, and how do you sort of approach this?
Okay. So the thing about milk is that, back in the day when you and I were kids, our mothers would give us milk and we would just constantly, I remember having either being fed with Bonvita or Horlicks or whatever it is, they would constantly give me milk and I hated it. But there was that whole perception that, milk is good. You must have milk. It's important for bones. It's important for calcium, which is all true, by the way. The thing about milk is that back in the day, we used to get something called A2 milk, right? From the Gir cow, which was about, say, 20, 25 years ago. Today, currently, most of us get something called A1 milk, which contains the protein that is problematic to most of mankind, which is why we face problems like bloating, acidity, gas, distension. In addition to that, today we are living a very toxic lifestyle. Our lifestyle wasn't back in the day like how people used to play more sports. They used to farm on the fields. There was a lot more activity. We used to not eat so much junk. There weren't as many cars on the road. So what happens when you feed an already polluted body with something as problematic as A1 milk? It's bound to result in more toxicity. The second thing is that today a lot of people have respiratory issues. They have asthma. If you take a substance that causes mucus formation, milk is known to increase mucus in people. It is bound to affect you in certain ways. So I think, again, I want to go back to that whole philosophy of, again, listening to your body, right? At Health Total, we do gene testing wherein we kind of figure out if we take a saliva sample and we figure out if you're intolerant to milk, if you're lactose intolerant. But I think it's pretty easy to find out even if you don't take that test, just by listening to your body and figuring out that do I feel bloated after I have a glass of milk? Do I feel like burping? Am I getting, multiple other symptoms? If not, then continue having milk. If you are experiencing those symptoms, then obviously stop. Find other sources of milk. I've completely switched to almond milk. Frankly speaking, I can't find the difference. But it really tastes the same, So I feel like if you have a healthier option, then why not? So yeah, it's again about milk. It's not everyone should stop having it or everyone should have it. It's about what works for your body. If you feel like you are experiencing a lot of symptoms that are problematic, then don't have it. So yeah.
No, I completely agree. I think that's very relevant. And again, that goes back to what you were saying earlier that, there's no sort of one answer fits all. It's important for everyone to sort of see what's working best for them and stick to it. So we're getting a lot more questions. So we have one from Anushka on intermittent fasting. So Anushka, we've actually answered this earlier. We'll be sharing this video to our IGTV after the session. So just for the sort of sake of time, we're going to move on. There are a few more questions. We have a question on what are some other sources of calcium. So maybe you can sort of answer that. And then, I know we're sort of running out of time, but I do want to talk about immunity. I know that's something that everyone is worried about today, and rightfully so. So what do you guys recommend for immunity? What are some home remedies that you take? that you ask your clients maybe to take, and just generally, what are some tips that you think would be helpful for our viewers just to keep in mind in terms of boosting immunity?
Okay, first I'll answer that calcium question.
Yeah.
Right? So spinach actually is one of the best sources of calcium, even more than milk. Any green leafy veggies, any green leafy vegetable that you have will have a lot of calcium. So whether it's kale, whether it's spinach, even dals have a lot of calcium. Lentils have a lot of calcium. So I think these are good sources of calcium. Also, I want to add on the importance of supplementation, right? So in today's day and age, our diets are not enough. We need to supplement ourselves with, basic vitamins, basic minerals, because whatever we're consuming, it's getting depleted from our body because of all the toxicity that's there. So it's important to have a B vitamin. It's important to have your calcium daily. It's important to have your vitamin C. So why you get it from foods, trust me, that's not enough, because our diets are just not up to that mark. If you can have a wholesome, good, well-nourished diet, then you don't need it. But let's be real, none of us have that. So that is one thing. Now coming back to your immunity question, right? So you were asking me what are the things that I do for immunity, and what is it that we do at Health Total for our patients for immunity. So very recently, I put up this video that did really well. It's this juice that my mom has been making for me ever since I was a kid, right? So it's this turmeric juice. Basically, I'll tell you the recipe. It's really simple. You take around 1-inch stick of turmeric, fresh turmeric. You take half ginger, and you grind it together. You strain it. You add water. You add a little bit of lime, honey, as well as salt and pepper. Now, turmeric, you go back to any Ayurvedic old school book, they will always speak about turmeric because it is an anti-inflammatory. It is a very potent antioxidant, and it's amazing it has so many benefits. It's actually a superfood, so whether it's for your skin, whether it's for immunity, it's a great option. So even if you don't want to use it for immunity, you can use it for your skin. It works either way, you're winning. The second thing about, right, what herbs do we kind of prescribe? I wouldn't say prescribe, but what herbs do we give for people who want to improve on their immunity? So tulsi is great, right? It's such common knowledge, I feel, as I'm saying it, but people forget. They want to go back to all these new age cool foods, but actually it's about going back to your roots. So tulsi is great, amla is great, guruchi is also another herb that's really good for immunity. So this is basically, so turmeric, ginger, tulsi, amla, guruchi.
Great. I just noticed you keep mentioning, the difference between Ayurveda and, some of the new age sciences. Just for our viewers who don't know, so Dr. Vaidya's is actually where Dr. Vaidya's new age Ayurveda. So we tried combining, the legacy or the research, the 5,000, 6,000 years of research of Ayurveda, and sort of putting them or giving to our consumers in new age sort of ways. So for immunity, you can check out our Chyawanprash capsules, HerboFit. We have Chyawanprash toffees, Chakash. So you can find all of these on our Instagram page, on our website. So do check that out. Also, Suchi, just before we sort of end this, I've seen a lot of questions on vitamins, B12, D3, and a couple of others, so they're slightly higher. But what do you recommend for people who are vitamin deficient? And so we can sort of move ahead with that. So a lot of questions coming in.
No, so so it's what about people who are deficient in vitamins and minerals? Is that the question?
Yeah. So then we had a question with someone deficient in D3, someone in B12.
Yes.
We have one more on
B12. And D3 deficient. So, okay, basically, how do you know you're D3 deficient? You've obviously taken a test or some sort of analysis to figure out you're deficient. Find out what your levels are. See how far off they are are they in the normal range? Even if they are in the normal range, are they on the lower side, middle, or upper side, right? So it's very important to know that. Most people think that even if they touch the the lower end of normal, they're good, but that's not the case. Because again, as we know, blood tests are just based on average stats. It's not, each path lab has its own range.
Yeah.
So if you're deficient in any vitamin or mineral, which you will be in today's day and age, it's important that you take supplements for it and you nourish yourself with food and diet. That's a given. But say you can't do that for whatever reason it is. Say you enjoy your pastas and pizzas and burgers or whatever it is that you take in, at least have the supplements. At least take in that. So D3 is again a vitamin. It's a sunshine vitamin that, they say you get it in the morning sun. How many of us wake up in the morning? We don't wake up in the morning. I wake up like at maybe 11 a.m. So the morning sun is already gone for me. So the idea is to take, you get something called D3, 60,000 international units. That is recommended once every 2 weeks. So if you take one capsule every 2 weeks, your levels will keep increasing, so, and then that's a good way to kind of start. So supplementation is basically the idea when it comes to any sort of deficiency if you do not have a good diet.
Yeah, no, like you're saying, I think, one thing that a lot of people forget, they go running to the supplements, but you get a lot of these, in your sort of daily, or should be getting a lot of these vitamins in your daily diet. So
the thing is that how many of us are having a good diet? If you have a good diet, I'm saying even then you need to maybe you obviously need to reduce the level of supplementation. But for those people who have unhealthy lifestyles, the easiest thing that I could advise is make sure you're regular with your supplements.
Definitely.
The best way is to take it in the natural form, obviously. Yeah.
Great. So I think, I know we sort of overshot the time, but thank you so much for doing this. This was very useful. For all of those watching, we are going to have this on our IGTV. We have spoken about, we've spoken about a lot of things. We've spoken about PCOS. We've spoken about intermittent fasting, keto, veganism, milk, dairy, and just generally, how to stay healthy and fit, boost immunity during lockdown. So Sachi, thank you for doing this. This was very useful. I hope our viewers enjoyed it. And, if there were any questions we weren't able to answer, I'm extremely sorry. I know we've had a lot of questions coming in, but feel free to sort of email it to the Dr. Vaidya's account, or I'm sure you can reach out to Suchita directly, and we'd be happy to sort of answer what we can. Right? Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Hi guys, my name is Arjun Vaidya and I'm the CEO of Dr. Vaidya's. I hope you like what you heard. If you want more content on health and Ayurveda in the 21st century, please click the subscribe icon. We've got a lot more coming for you.